Hi, everyone. Welcome. Carl Steinbeck here up in New York City. Wanted to cover tonight's news that came out. Breaking news having to do with the Charlie Adelson case. He's convicted of murdering his ex-brother-in-law, Professor Dan Markell, a FSU law professor, father of two young boys, was in a custody dispute with the boys' mother. The professor was, and the kid's mother was Wendy Adelson, and Charlie Adelson, Wendy's brother, a oral surgeon, is convicted, and want to talk tonight about a motion that was filed to the appellate court by the attorney for Charlie Adelson, Mr. Ufferman. Ufferman is asking for, in his motion, for the appellate court to relinquish jurisdiction back to the trial court level. Reason being, the trial court needs to sort out this issue on whether Charlie was denied effective representation due to his lawyer, Daniel Rashbaum, was ethically conflicted and constitutionally conflicted, in essence, from representing Charlie. And if you have ineffective assistance of counsel due to a conflict, that's pretty much going to toss the case out. So this is something I've been harping on for a long time now, ever since I saw that Rashbaum was representing Donna after representing Charlie and doing, as we saw, not a very good job. Charlie got convicted, and then days later he's representing and continuing to represent Donna Adelson. As we know that Rashbaum also said that the representation of Donna extended all the way back to 2016. So he's been basically representing Donna since 2016, then represents her son Charlie during his murder trial, and he also had the issue of the on the witness list, Donna and Harvey, the parents of Charlie, being on the defense witness list. They were also on the state's witness list. So there was a issue with that at the trial court level for Charlie's trial less than a month before trial, where there was a deposition hearing scheduled at the FBI office in Miramar, Florida, and there was a deal worked out with the state attorney's office and with Charlie himself, Charlie's counsel, Rashbaum. But Charlie was never part of that, apparently. He never got consent to have his parents not testify. And he also never had consent at other stages of the proceedings, according to this motion filing by the attorney Ufferman for Charlie. So it's a real hot mess. It looks so bad for the case that the prosecution otherwise did an excellent job presenting the facts, getting Charlie convicted on this in just a couple hours. Slam dunk win. But if you have conflicted counsel representing Charlie, the case is going to get tossed on appeal. So I don't even think this case will make it to the appellate level. I think Judge Everett will actually do the same thing he did on Donna's case, which is find that Charlie had conflicted counsel as well. And if you think about it, the motion that was, the order that Judge Everett signed off on, banishing these three defense lawyers from further representing Donna Adelson, he in there stated it was unethical representation by Rashbaum. So if it's unethical, it's automatically going to be also a constitutional violation. So since Donna was conflicted on that, and we now have Charlie's conflict coming up, in essence, Charlie even has worse of a conflict because Donna was the first client for him. So this is something that was easily spotted when Rashbaum first appeared representing Donna. He should have been bounced from the courtroom immediately. This is so much a open and shut case of that conflict. So think about this now, that it's so egregious, open and shut conflict of such a magnitude that Charlie was readily denied a fair trial due to his lawyer failing to recuse himself. So what's happening now is, I believe, if the state attorney can stand up and basically say it with a straight face that this is no harm, I find that hard to believe, and I'll actually be pretty shocked if they say there was no conflict here. I think it's abundantly clear there was a conflict, and this is something you cannot purge and clear away and make it go away by a waiver of all the parties. It was so much a direct hamstringing of the defense of Charlie that, in essence, Charlie had a lawyer that was looking out for his mom's interests more than his. And that's in essence what a conflict is that the lawyer has divided loyalties from one client to another. And when you have multiple co-defendants in a criminal case, especially something as serious as murder, which it doesn't get any more serious than that, to have this lawyer bouncing between all these different co-defendants. Keep in mind, he also was representing Harvey, who should also have been arrested by now and convicted, the husband of Donna. And what you have here then is basically a lawyer that's who's he most loyal to? I mean, he called Donna a mother figure to him when he's interviewed on Survivor. And by the way, I got a copy of this motion thanks to Steve Cohen of Surviving the Survivor. He's their guest manager and among other things. So thanks to Steve Cohen for shooting John, my brother, a copy of the motion and appendix to that. And so I'm just going to pull up that motion and give you any of my thoughts on that. But like I say, this thing's open and shut. I really think that state attorney's office will not oppose the basic overturning of the conviction for Charlie, because it's so clear cut that that this offends all standards of justice. That's why when I said this back when Donna first appeared in court with Rashbaum, I said this would never be happening in any court that I have ever practiced in. I don't know any lawyer that would do something this reckless and disregarding of constitutional standards and also ethical standards, for that matter, for the states I'm licensed in. So I don't know how he got away with it, Rashbaum. The court didn't intervene. The state attorney's office didn't intervene. So, but here we are now, and this is what happens when you're sleep with the switch on a constitutional law issue that can get the case reversed. This is the only issue that could have gotten the case reversed on appeal. So it's not. I don't even think this is going to make it to the appellate courts. I think what will happen is the trial court will go ahead and make the same finding that Rashbaum was ethically conflicted from representing Charlie, and grant him a new trial. And so with a new trial granted, we're back at square one, just like Donna. So Charlie, all that witness testimony, all the stuff that Markells went through, all that, my estimation, is going to be tossed. And are they really going to have a hearing on this? Because if the trial court doesn't find that there was a conflict, I guarantee you the appellate courts will, such a magnitude that Charlie will be granted a new trial. So in this motion it's called motion to relinquish jurisdiction to the trial court. So basically that means that instead of this thing being at the trial appellate court stage, Offerman, the defense attorney, saying, can we just have this issue resolved as a fact finder, the trial court judge, give him an opportunity to right this wrong of having conflicted counsel. And in the backdrop, he talks about the fact that, how Charlie was brought on as a client to Rashbaum after he'd already represented Donna for a number of years. And then he even says that in italicized print where he's saying prior to the arrest of appellant Adelson. So in other words, his loyalty to Donna started way before it started to Charlie. And so that shows it even more so that, well, who's he most loyal to? Well, maybe it's the person he represented the longest, which is Donna. And he said that basically Mr. Rashbaum previously represented a co-conspirator in the same or substantially related matter, and he had an actual conflict of interest during the court's representation of appellant Adelson. And then he goes on to talk about how Donna Adelson was listed as state witness, and for the state as well as for the defense. And Donna was not present as a witness during the appellant Adelson's trial because she was removed from the defense witness list days before the trials to begin, after the state had sought to interview her. And he says the undersigned counsel asserts that Donna Adelson's removal from the witness list was done in order to protect Donna Adelson's interests, i.e. not being interviewed by the state, and against appellate's interests, i.e. a witness that could have corroborated appellant Adelson's testimony was not called by Rashbaum. Hence, Rashbaum's representation of appellate Adelson, meaning Charlie, at trial after having previously represented Donna constituted an actual conflict of interest. So what you have is a perceived conflict of interest that can be just as bad and can be treated the same as an actual. But here he's saying there's an actual conflict of interest, which is readily apparent. And then he says, as explained by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in a case named Porter v. Singletary, the federal 11th Circuit, from 1994, an attorney who cross-examined a former client inherently encounters divided loyalties. Given the recent finding by the trial court in Donna Adelson's case regarding Mr. Rashbaum engaging in a conflicted representation falling short of the ethical obligations for members of the Florida bar, appellant Adelson asserts the same principle applies to Mr. Rashbaum's representation of appellant Adelson at trial, because attorney Adelson Rashbaum was operating under a conflict of interest based on duties owed to former client Donna Adelson, whose attorney-client relationship predated appellant Adelson's. So, and then they go on to cite some supporting documentation. And in that, there's like 107 pages roughly of an appendix. And in that, it shows the whole court history. It shows a probable cause arrest affidavit for Charlie. It shows some of the other court documents, including transcripts, shows transcripts of the hearing when the judge got these attorneys bounced, and they actually included Judge Everett's order, which removed all three of the Adelson trial lawyers. So this is really the thing that you would expect a good appellate attorney to do. It's pretty much standard, nothing complex or hard to understand about this. This is basically the basic foundations of criminal law and constitutional law interwoven. And what we have here is it's really astounding that we could have this much work put in and all of it's going to go basically kicked to the curb. There's nothing that's going to happen here to sustain the conviction. And I think really at the court will grant this motion to relinquish jurisdiction to Judge Everett, and Judge Everett's going to make a very similar ruling doing that for Donna's case. So Charlie's going to get a new trial. That's what my prediction is. And based on that, Charlie's going to wind up having to start all over with all new fresh counsel, just like Donna. So in other words, Rashbaum wasted all this time for Donna, 10 months for Donna, and Charlie, he represented him for what, almost a year and a half. And all that's for naught, all this time in jail spent, which, they're guilty. So that's, I guess, one good thing about it, about the only good thing. But to have justice denied like this and delayed for so long is really troubling and disturbing. And you just wonder why so many people were asleep at the switch. But in the end, keep in mind, nobody's going to get out of jail. Charlie's not going to get out of jail by being granted a new trial. Same with Donna. Donna's not getting out of jail. Charlie actually will revert back from, and I understand he just got released back from Leon County Jail in the last day or two to apparently back to South Dakota. But he's going to be brought back as soon as this is resolved. Maybe he'll be brought back as a witness if there's going to be a hearing. But I'd just be really surprised if the state's going to try to fight this. I think it's that open and shut. But I see prosecutors do it all the time. They got a really bad situation. It looks very unjust from the standpoint of justice, not taking any sides. If you just call a spade, and you look at this as being like, is this really fair to have an attorney that convoluted and wrestling in the mud with all these conflicts, swirling around him, and he can't see out of the mud. He's got so much mud in his eyes with conflicts, he can't represent any of these Adelsons properly. So that's what I've been concerned about the last 10 months, 11 months, that this thing was just a hot mess, and Rashbaum was way over his head, and nobody gave him a lifeline or pulled him out of water and shook him up and said, get out of this courtroom. You have no business being here representing multiple murder defendants. So, yeah, so we have definitely a thing that I think, the one thing I do think about this motion to relinquish jurisdiction that really will speed up the process, because Judge Everett, he's going to be all over this. He's going to have a hearing really quick. This whole thing about granting him a new trial, I think, will happen probably within a month or less. That's just my guess. I don't practice down there in Florida and in Tallahassee, especially. So I don't have any practice working this issue, but it's a very good thing, because if he would have left this stay in the appellate courts, this could have been clogged up in the court system for like up to another year before the appellate courts took a stab at it, and then I guarantee you they would have reversed it as well. So in any event, reversible error means that he can be retried. It doesn't mean that charges are dismissed. I know some people are saying, well, if the court finds reversible error was committed in this case, does that mean that Charlie gets to walk home free? No, that does not mean that at all. It just means that he's basically going to be granted a new trial. So he's going to come back to Leon County probably next month. Leon County will be back there in the same jail. So think about it. Charlie and his mom will be in the same jail for up to a year and a half till they both go to trial. So that begs the question, is the state attorney's office going to try these two cases together, or at least have them sync to same time, where they're not going to wait for one to be convicted for the other? So I really hope that they look at these as some cases they just need to charge the other Adelsons of Florida ASAP. And with that, you can try to have all these trials pinned together as close together as possible. Some of them tried together unless the judge busts it up and mandates separate trials. But in any case, it's really I'm glad at least the Band-Aid's being ripped off now, and we see what a disaster this is laying out before us. And it was so easily predictable. And it's just one of those deals, I think, that I don't know why the appellate counsel sat on this so long, why they couldn't have raised this earlier, but maybe they wanted to sit back and let this issue to see if Charlie would be called as a witness or not. Even if Charlie wasn't called as a witness, this issue would have came out on appeal eventually, I think. And but anyway, the fact that Donna had a ruling from Judge Everett saying that Rashbaum committed an ethical violation, that is serious. If you commit an ethical violation in a murder case, and it has something to do with you, whether you ethically represented your client properly or not, that's like a huge badge of dishonor and shame as an attorney. So in any event, sorry, I got a call from my uncle here I had to turn off. Let me turn my sound off here. Sorry about that. And better yet, I'll just turn the phone off. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to questions now. JKC, you're saying if Charlie gets a new trial, will he be offered a plea to testify, implicate Wendy? Well, there is a possibility he could always decide to do that. Once he gets conflict-free counsel, that's one of the things I've been saying all along was like, how can you ever talk to Charlie about, hey, do you want to roll over and cop a plea and flip on another Florida Adelson family member? Because without that, you're going down. You're going down. You're going to get life without parole. Your only chance of ever getting out, seeing the light of day out of your prison cell is going to be if you testify, like offer to testify and implicate. Truthfully, obviously, you're not going to ask a client to like manufacture testimony and lie about someone else just to get out of hot water like that. So in any event, he obviously knows stuff about Wendy. He could implicate Wendy as well as Harvey. So is he willing to do that to save his own neck? So that's what the issue is. But that conversation could have never taken place with Rashbaum because he had his loyalties, I believe, most likely tied to Donna, not Charlie. And that's why the courts, whether it's Judge Everett or Courts of Appeals, they're just going to bounce this thing. I said the other day when I saw another attorney on YouTube saying there's only a 10% chance this will have any traction in the appellate courts. I said at least the opposite, the inverse of that, 90% chance of a reversal of the convictions. And now I'm upping that to 100%. There's no doubt in my mind this thing's going to get tossed. And yeah, it is a total embarrassment. It is really crazy. Kitty Girl, you're asking if Charlie gets a new trial, how do you think he'll plead out and blame his mother now that he knows his extortion defense didn't work? I mean, that's a conversation I'd have with a client like that. If Charlie was in Texas and I was a new counsel representing him, I'd look at the history of the case. I'd look at what his previous representation was. I'd look at Rashbaum and think, wow, this guy never could even talk about offering up testimony against other co-defendants and unindicted co-conspirators and unnamed co-conspirators. Because think about it, Harvey's never been even mentioned at all in any court documents as a conspirator in any way, shape, or form. But we know he has also involvement with this. Besides Wendy, now we know she was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator, and she should have been indicted many, many years ago. And so, yeah, Cheryl Crawford, I agree, this is a total embarrassment. And anyway, getting back to the Katie Girl issue, though, yeah, he could blame his mother now. That's really the only way he's going to come out ahead is if he gets his mom. But really, he doesn't even have to testify against his mom. I think the real one that they've been afraid to go after is Wendy. This one-at-a-time approach would be sped up, obviously, if he agrees to flip on Wendy. So it remains to be seen. If he's smart, obviously, he'll agree to flip on everybody involved in this. But we'll see. I mean, he's going to have a free, clean slate. But the fact that he already testified to this ridiculous extortion defense, to answer your question, I mean, any attorney with half a brain would say, this is not going to work. This is ridiculous. A jury obviously already had the same opinion. So you sitting there thinking you're going to go to trial. What's the point of going to trial again to have the same outcome? There's even more evidence against you now. Now that we've seen the text messages between you and your mom, talking about when Sigfredo Garcia the trigger puller got arrested, and you guys were talking about how this is a drug deal gone wrong with Dan Markel, when supposedly this was an extortion theory going on. So the state obviously dropped the ball on not having that evidence available to cross-examine Charlie on, but they finally got it. So in any event, this is basically what happens when you have people that are not aware of how constitutional conflict of interest issues can pan out in a criminal's law setting. Andy, you're saying this is a colossal dumpster fire lying down on a ski slope. Any ideas why the state didn't call Harvey and Donna and Charlie's trial? They could have decided not to call them because they have immunity issues and protection. In the event they did decide to go after them later, that doesn't prevent you from prosecuting them. But I don't understand it, why they wouldn't have put that pressure on, at least done a deposition. I don't know why they wouldn't have done a deposition. So I don't understand a lot of stuff the state attorney's office is doing. It makes no sense to me. And in any event, I think the mere fact that they're both on states and defense witnesses is going to be a factor that the trial judge mentions in his ruling, and that's going to get this case bounced and a new trial granted. Yeah, I'm not going to rant like I have on some of the other evenings. It's just really one of these deals where you already know my opinions on who shares all the blame on this kind of thing. It's just really upsetting to see that, and it's just at least like I say, it's the Band-Aids being ripped off, and this thing's going to grant and start all over. So basically, it's the time that Charlie served in prison isn't going to count. His conviction isn't going to count, and he's going to get a new trial. At least I would think the state attorney's office is good to save some face, so it start charging the other Adelsons. But who knows? We'll see. Yeah, Kathy. This is one of the twists and turns. Yeah. So it's just really just one of these deals that just makes this saga, this case, keep going on, getting stranger and stranger, more twists and turns. And I mean, this is a story not only about the criminal defendants and their bumbled attempts to kill someone and get away with it, but it's almost like you look at all these other cast of characters and they get involved in the case, from Megs and on down the line. It's just like you can't have you couldn't make this stuff up in a movie, and no movie would find this stuff credible. People would be bored with it. Yeah, it doesn't happen in real life that way. This is too crazy a story. So okay, Sally, you're saying, didn't Harvey and Donna threaten to plead the fifth if the state called them as witnesses? Wouldn't that be in writing? Now Charlie is saying he couldn't call Donna because of conflicted counsel. Yeah, I mean, that's what through the counsel at the time, Marissa Descalzo, she was the one saying that they were going to invoke the fifth and they weren't going to cooperate. And then that fired up Judge Everett. And he was the one that basically said, no, they will cooperate. And if they don't, I'll have them arrested and brought up here to Tallahassee. So that's what they were not able to plead the fifth and not cooperate. Descalzo didn't know about the fact that there's a criminal statute. Actually, it's a statute for, I believe, civil and criminal, where if they call you as a witness, if they call you as a witness in a proceeding, you're guaranteed immunity for the use and derivative use of whatever you say. So you could admit to murder. They can't charge you with murder based on your confession. They would have to have independent evidence, completely not being derived from your testimony or your actual testimony. So that's what that means. And so it's basically a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, piercing statute. So yeah, but they could have called them in for a deposition, and both Harvey and Donna would have had to cooperate and testify. Otherwise, they could have been held in contempt of court if they didn't, and be in jail until they do cooperate. So, but yeah, that specific example of Charlie Rashbaum deciding not to call Donna as a witness to preserve her interests. That's what was emphasized in italics in this motion, is that's something that Rashbaum had said, that he did this to protect Donna. And meanwhile, it's like Donna wasn't facing murder charges, but Charlie was. So your loyalty was to Charlie at that time. But since Donna was like a mom to him, he represented her for many years previous while she's awaiting to be arrested and indicted. That's why this whole thing is he's so wrapped around the axle on this conflict that it's just really so bizarre that it took this long for anyone to do something about it there. Tiffany and Collier saying, can the state try them together now? Yeah, I mean, they might as well let the court decide if they need to separate them, but try them and try all these other Adelsons at the same time or near the same time if you're not going to have a consolidated trial. So that's something I've been saying all along, and maybe they'll decide to do it now. And then it's like, look at how botched up this one at a time approach works when you have a conflicted counsel that played everybody like that. Yeah, Julia Nielsen, you're right. Both Charlie and Donna do need a new defense counsel, starting from scratch. They gotta start over, and so yeah, I think Rashbaum. Imagine what kind of trouble he's going to get. I don't know how tough the state of Florida is on a conflict issue like this, but he could be subject to sanctions, and I don't think he would be disbarred over something like this, but he could very well face some kind of trouble, like being suspended for a year or two, something like that. Have no idea. I'm just going by what would happen in other states that I practice in and have licenses in. Yes, me, Brooke. Yeah, that's what you're saying. I'm just saying the same thing that with the overturning of his conviction, the state can then have a joint trial unless the judge severs it. If there's issues involving, they have defenses that are problematic. If you have them tried together, then that can cause a judge to sever it. But the whole issue remains: don't wait until the one is convicted actually before you go forward with the next Adelson. Line them up in a daisy chain effect, as we call it in the military, where you charge one month, and a month or two later you charge the next one, and you pretty much got to do a tight shot group for all these Adelsons, and that's the way you really force them all to be every man for himself. Yeah, Maya Rodriguez Sorensen, also a lawyer, saying Rashbaum even seemed like he was more protecting Wendy than representing Charlie. I mean, he was really going after this long scripted questioning for Wendy. I agree with you on that. And it looks like he was trying to make it look like she had nothing to be involved in this case, and was just, it looked like it was so rehearsed between Rashbaum and Lauro to have Wendy know the questions in advance. She acted totally different when being questioned by the state versus being questioned by Rashbaum. And Rashbaum did look like, this was a client of his that was coached. So because I think Donna probably wanted Wendy protected more than anybody. Yeah, so you could say that as well, that it looked like he was protecting Wendy more. That wasn't raised in this initial motion for the court. But yeah, that's definitely something that that I would say could be raised as well if it needs to be further developed on the record. Saeed Barbie, I agree with you. Rashbaum should have never been involved in any of these Adelson cases. Spiritual chick, I don't think that this has been planned all along. You think they had an end game? I don't think a lawyer would intentionally throw his license on the line to help somebody that he says is like a family member, like a mom. I find it hard to believe that he really thinks she's like a mom. Look how quick he dumped her, and I guess in the hallway elevator he said that he's going to be glad to get away from this case. So he's not going to be talking to Donna anymore. So he's moved on, and Donna's left alone holding the bag. Nurturing 2, you're asking, will Rashbaum receive any sanction or other actions from the ABA? That's the American Bar Association. I'm curious how this will impact him professionally. This is a mess. Poor Markells. So this will, not the ABA, the American Bar Association doesn't have any disciplinary authority over any attorneys in the United States. What happens is we're licensed by individual states. So the individual states, they're the ones that have the responsibility for addressing and having hearings and findings and recommendations to the Supreme Court on how attorneys' licenses should be handled. So And if you're licensed in multiple states, if you're found to be sanctioned in one state, let's say you're disbarred in one state, if you're licensed in a second state, then that second state would also find you disbarred as well for the same amount of period. Okay, Sally A, you're saying, do I believe Charlie has been wrongfully convicted? If he has a retrial, he is going to be found guilty again. Yes, he is going to be found guilty again on a retrial. So in essence, this is just burning up more Adelson money. So he can find a $10 million lawyer team. That's not going to help him escape another conviction. So I guess that's the one good thing about it. But evidence can decompose over time. Witnesses cannot be available. So that's why they really need to start moving out on this case and just get over this Adelson murder case once and for all, and have the proper foresight to see that this one at a time approach is just not working. If they would have had this all at the same time, Rashbaum would not have represented two Adelsons at the same time, because he would have recognized it too much to handle at one time, and I think it would have made more people realize, wait, you're representing two murder co-defendants in the same trial. That's even more bizarre than having it one at a time like this. So I think that would have piqued enough interest that he would have been shot down. And so in the end, this one at a time is coming back to really bite them. Now, if this gets some kind of traction where Charlie's saying, I'm tired of this. I've wasted all this money. I just want to get out as fast as I can. And with his new attorney, he agrees to flip on more Adelsons. Then I guess in the end, that's a benefit from this happening. But anyway, there's going to be twists and turns, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if he's got good defense counsel, they could probably talk him into that. Thunder Queen, you're asking, is there a hearing where Rashbaum will be called? Yeah, all these parties could be called. I don't think Judge Everett really needs to get much into that, though, because if I was Rashbaum, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that courtroom again. Keep in mind, he's from the Miami area. So if he gets called as a witness, he's going to explain this stuff. And it's just so embarrassing. The worse he looks on the witness stand, the more it's going to look worse on the judge and other parties. So I really hope the state does the right thing and basically agree that there's a conflict of interest there, and I guess if they want to remain silent on the recommendation of the court to whether to grant a new trial or not, the judge probably want their opinion on that though as well. So in essence, I do believe that Charlie was wrongfully convicted on a technical issue, but a constitutional issue at that, having to do with his lawyer could not properly represent him. He was ineffective per se. And if you're ineffective per se, that's a constitutional right to having effective counsel. So I think the case will be probably resolved, like I say, within a month, and then you'll have to start over. Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm not saying he's going to be a witness, but it's potentially he could be. Rashbaum, that is. Okay, Carrie, you're saying, can they use Charlie's testimony against him if he's given a new trial? They could. They're not going to. They're not going to use that, what Charlie said in his first trial, and against him in the second trial. They're probably going to let that be there only for impeachment purposes. So in any event, his testimony is so ludicrous and so outlandish that they don't let Charlie present some kind of defense and whatnot. But I just don't see another lawyer being like Rashbaum and thinking that something that ridiculous is gonna carry any weight with a jury. So if I had a client that was being that foolish and not going to cut a deal, I would just tell him I'm not going to handle your case and prop up some kind of garbage defense like this and look like an idiot myself. Sorry. Yeah, Dog Mom 54. The court should have stopped Charlie's trial before this even happened. They're wasting the court's time. Yep, this should have never gone to trial. Charlie should have gone to trial with Rashbaum. CC, you're saying even a new trial won't take his guilt away. What are your thoughts? Well, yeah, I mean, he under the law, he's innocent until proven guilty, right? So what we're looking at, those the evidence. Florida has those liberal laws allowing us to to open back the see all the video and different police documents and whatnot. So in the end, he will be convicted again. So that's really all that matters, is that there will be a follow-up conviction. Inky Pinky, you're saying, well, Charlie need to find a new lawyer as well. That's what I'm saying. Even though he said Rashbaum was wonderful, clients don't understand the ethical conflict. I mean, it can sound very complex, convoluted, but it's really not for attorneys that practice in criminal law, where, like I say, the constitutional aspects of conflicts are raised and run from by attorneys, unless it's Rashbaum. Then he ran directly into this basically hurricane of a legal disaster quagmire. Whitney Marie, you're asking, how did Rashbaum remove Donna and Harvey from the witness list if they were witnesses for the prosecution, since they were getting immunity? Well, I think what happened was, Rashbaum wasn't representing them at that time. When they got subpoenaed as witnesses, then I think they ran out and grabbed that Descalzo female attorney down there in Miami, and she doesn't practice criminal law, so she was resisting that and telling the prosecution that they had no authority to depose either Harvey or Donna. And what happened then was that this issue came out where, they're both on, the prosecution has a right to call them for a deposition because they were listed on the defense witness list. And Rashbaum said, okay, they're off my witness list. And can we just decide not to call them at all? You guys not call them at all, because we won't. If we promise not to call them, then you won't promise not to call them as well. So we'll sort of make them go away. And that's what I recall the agreement was between the parties. And so with that being the case, Rashbaum wasn't representing Donna, but he obviously said that he had loyalties to her. And that's what this motion's saying today, that he's basically did that to protect Donna instead of using Donna to corroborate. Think about it, Donna was the only witness to corroborate this whole concocted story about this double extortion that is really a farcical robbery on a payment plan. So anyway, Donna was the best witness and only witness to corroborate that, because keep in mind, they said they never told any of the other family members, or at least Charlie said he never told any other family member, including his dad and Wendy. And remember, Wendy said she just found out about the fact that Charlie knew who the hitmen were from day one. So this whole thing is just so corny. You can't believe it. None of their stories made any sense. None of it was credible. Yeah, so Sally, Rashbaum was representing Dunn and Harvey as a criminal lawyer, as a suspect lawyer. So when they were finding out that the hitman got arrested, they right away hired their own lawyers, and both of them went to Rashbaum, hired him to represent both of them. And if you remember, there was a joint statement given out by Rashbaum, John Laurel, which was Wendy's attorney, and also the David Oscar Marcus, that was Charlie's attorney at the time. So that was being done. And so they were all clearly, trying to be proactive in preventing any of the Adelsons from being arrested. So they had a joint statement and just declared the innocence of all the Adelsons. And they said there was no evidence against them. But obviously that was wrong. And at the time, though, they wouldn't have seen any of the file records to know that they're guilty. But if you look at that phone call from Charlie's lawyer to the hitman's lawyer, why would an Adelson that's a victim of this for their grandsons and nephew and whatnot, why would they call the hitman's lawyer to try to see if they're going to flip and if there's any way they can pay for their lawyers? So imagine that if somebody tries to murder your family or does murder your family, are you going to call up the lawyer of the folks that got arrested for doing that and say, hey, can we help pay for your lawyer fees? And anyway, it just shows that the lawyers believe that they were guilty as well. Sarah Howard, I don't think he's going to be disbarred, but I think he get some serious sanctions. The fact that 2 murder cases are derailed, I've never heard of a defense attorney's conflict causing someone that's already been convicted, as well as somebody that was about to go to trial, the day of trial, gets found to have an ethical violation, and that trial gets bounce as well. So one of the things attorneys are supposed to do is make sure that they're not impeding the proper administration of justice. And so having a conflict to cause that much hardship and damage to getting these trials underway, and then one of them that got underway gets reversed, um, over almost a year later. It's just such a black eye on the system down there. If he gets off lights, I would I would say he's probably looking at a couple year suspension at a minimum. That's what I think would happen in like Texas, for example. Yeah, Dana, I think they would try Wendy, Charlie, and Donna together, and at least try to do that, and leave it up to the judge if the defense counsel want to fight and have a separate trial. But I really think there probably wouldn't be a trial for all these folks if they charge them all. That's how you get the most leverage and intimidation on defendants, is if you just blast them all with indictments and make them all be locked up in Leon County Jail there, and have the and offer a sweetheart blue light special deal to the first ones willing to flip on everybody else. Patricia Burns, you're asking, could this have been Rashbaum's plan to get Charlie's conviction overturned? I don't think Rashbaum really understood this issue. From what I saw of him in trial, he didn't seem like he was really comfortable in a courtroom. So I think he just looked at it from the standpoint, hey, I can make a lot of money that I've never seen before off these Adelsons. And he probably saw the big dollar signs and sort of wanting to get to the yes to have them all be represented by him. Katie Girl, you're asking of the hearing. Yeah, I think you mean if the hearing results in a new trial, then appeal of that trial is still open. Well, what would happen is if whatever Judge Everett decides, it could always be appealed either by the state. As for example, if Judge Everett finds there's a conflict, then the state could appeal that to appellate level. But I would think that they realize that they're cooked on this issue and it's never going to stick on appeal. So they may just concede there's an ethical conflict to Rashbaum, and they don't need to have a hearing. They'll stipulate, and basically have by that stipulation, they could say we'll leave the outcome to the court, and the outcome would be that a new trial is granted. So I think it's going to be too hard of a pill to swallow for the state attorney's office to say, yeah, we agree he's entitled to a new trial. But I think they're going to come close to that, just because it's going to be so embarrassing to have this litigated and them saying, hey, this is no harm, no foul. And then they're going to lose big time anyway. So I think to save face, they'll just try to stipulate to at least the basic minimums that this is a ethical violation and a constitutional violation at that. Berg itself is saying now they'll put Donna, Hart, Charlie, and Wendy all wrapped up together in one trial. This is what you've been suggesting for over a year. Yes, ever since I saw this case from the get-go, it's actually, well, in January, I think it'll be 2 years I've been saying that. That's like, wow, why haven't they gone forward on these other Adelson arrests and trials? Warflare saying, can they put the death penalty forward if there's a new trial to knock that smirk off his smug face? I don't think they are going to do the death penalty. I think once he's already been tried with a non-death penalty case, I don't think that you would ever see them going back. But it should have been a death penalty case, as well as Donna's should be death penalty case. All these Adelsons of Florida should be tried with the death penalty, I think. At least you put it on the table and make them fight for their life. Strike some real fear in them. Make them fight for some kind of leniency by flipping on others. Tiffany Nicole, you're saying you don't feel sorry for Charlie or Donna. I don't think anybody does. But does that mean Daniel owes them a refund? Boy, I would say that if he doesn't offer him a refund, he's surely going to be sued over that. That's what I would expect. Yeah, Rusty, Tugboat, you're saying when he back on the stand at least 2 more times. Well, if you do this one at a time approach, I mean, they could be, let's see if they go 2 years out for Charlie's, 2 years out from Donna's, or if they do one at a time, then you got wait 2 years for Charlie to get convicted. Then are you gonna wait for that conviction to stand before they, indict Donna? But Donna, they can't let her stay in jail for 2 years without that being some kind of speedy trial type of issue that I think would be raised. So I think both are going to have to be tried really close at the same time, depending on if they get new counsel and get them to flip. That would be something that would really speed this thing up. JC, you're asking Rashbaum can't possibly get with what he did. Can he just get a slap on the hand? I don't think so. I think, like I say, the burden this is put on the state. Keep in mind the ethics committee board members; they would be up there in Tallahassee as well. So this is in their backyard. So if they just basically poo-poo this thing and make it look like it's no big deal, I'd be really shocked. But who knows? It's Florida, and Lisa Bailey, you're asking also about justifying disbarment. I don't know about the Florida history of disbarment, but normally for a conflict, that I would say I've never seen somebody disbarred for a conflict. That's more like a suspension kind of thing. If it's real aggravated, you really can't have a more aggravated conflict than this. And so, with that being the case, I think it's in a lot of states that could maybe get in a disbarment type situation where he's disbarred for life, not subject to reinstatement, or maybe subject to reinstatement after 5 years or something. But I just can't say and don't really know for Florida. Wesley John Holmes, you're saying trying together leads to more problems, calling each other as witnesses. Well, but the thing is, let the court decide. And what happens is if you charge all these defendants at the same time, you'll have ones deciding that, look, we're not just all circling around the wagons, the Adelson wagons around one at a time defendants. If you're all these four Florida Adelsons are arrested at the same time and they're facing their own trial, then that's the thing that's going to really make them think about saving their own hide and not worrying about another family member. So there are advantages to doing it that way. And like I say, even if it wasn't a joint trial, at least arrest them and charge them all now rather than later. Carlage Stewart's asking if granted new trial, would Charlie use his appellate attorney to represent him in his new criminal trial? No, his appellate attorney is strictly that. He's an appellate attorney. And so this is something that he's going to have to find somebody else. It's going to be somebody out of Miami that's got a lot of flash and pizzazz and, trying to relate to a Tallahassee jury. Is he going to find somebody in Tallahassee? I mean, I think it's going to be somebody maybe outside of Tallahassee and maybe like Orlando or Jacksonville for both him and Donna. Cheryl Crawford, I think, that a lot of that's dependent on if they're both going to fight it, then it can be depending on which attorney is ready to go sooner. That's really what it's going to come down to more than anything. I think even though Donna's still facing charges, she doesn't have an attorney yet, as far as we know. Charlie will have his probably have his case tossed and restarted within a month or so. And basically, they're going to be pretty close anyway. So it's going to be a neck and neck race, I would say. But maybe they'll get a lawyer that gets them to flip. Janie Garner, you're asking if Charlie was allowed to see Donna when he's in Leon County Jail. No, I don't think he was. I mean, he should have been. I don't think they're going to cut him any favors like that. So it's highly doubtful. Dana, you're saying how embarrassing for the judge. Yeah, Judge Everett's a great guy. I really like his temperament, but he really missed the boat on this one. It's really It's really really something. Sally H, any fresh words for Jack? I've already said what I need to say about that. I'm not going to keep talking about that, but you know what I've said in other episodes. Who's to blame? And it's just really, really unreal. You can't make this stuff up. This case is so crazy on so many different levels and degrees. John Calabrese, you're asking, does he walk all? No, he's not going to walk from this. He's just going to get a new trial, and so he's going to start all over. He's going to start all of that money he spent on Rashbaum. I'm sure Rashbaum's not going to give that back right away. He's going to probably fight him on it, and so remains to be seen who he gets for new counsel. But you're not going to have Rashbaum ever representing another Adelson again. I guarantee you that. Okay, Rosemary Romero, you're asking what are the chances Charlie and Donna will get off on a technicality because of ineffective? Well, ineffective assistance just means you get retried. It doesn't mean that you're going to have your case completely dismissed and a guilty party can walk free and never face prosecution again. So it's just a reversible error that means that it'll go back to trial court. And they can start all over. It's just sort of like what's going to happen with Charlie here. Lynn Strauss, you're saying, do I think the judge filed this to protect himself? I don't know what you mean by the judge filing something. I think what you're talking about is the order that Judge Everett signed, bouncing these three lawyers for Donna from representing her. That's something I've been advocating. And in fact, if you look at it 2 weeks beforehand, I had a title that said Judge Everett must remove all Adelson lawyers. So that's what, and I mentioned case law, the Wheat versus United States case, a 1988 Supreme Court case. And so that's all the authority you needed to do that as a judge. So anyway, he finally did it after this long time, but I don't think he's going to mess it up with Charlie this time. I think he's going to find that Rashbaum was conflicted and grant a new trial. Unfortunately, I think it's hard for the judge to have to admit that mistake. But if anybody's got rock solid integrity there, I think Judge Everett is going to do the right thing and have the courage to do it. Okay, jumping ahead here. Let's see. Deb C is saying, could there have been a mistrial during Charlie's trial once Rashbaum put Donna and Harvey on the witness list and removed them? What a waste of time. I don't think anybody saw this conflict of interest at that time. So no, there wouldn't have been a mistrial because nobody saw this being a percolating issue. Lorraine Piscatelli, you're saying, call Jack Campbell and ask him to arrest all of them, Wendy, Donna, Harvey, and Charlie, do it all at once. Yeah, I think they know my opinion down there. I'm led to believe that anyway. That I've made some strong comments about Jack Campbell, and so I'll just leave it at that. And I'm not going to keep getting fired up about that. I mean, it speaks for itself, and it's so obvious that that there's multiple blame across the board, not just Rashbaum. Well, what happens with Wendy now, Janie Gardner, I think she should be arrested ASAP. This has been long overdue. State Attorney's Office needs to get with the program and get this thing moving and quit delaying this case any further. So, Dempsey, you're asking if he gets a new trial, can he have a different defense and get away with it? No, what he said in the first trial, he's going to pretty much be locked into that as well. And that's why I think any attorney half their worthwhile is going to go ahead and try to negotiate some kind of plea agreement and try to talk Charlie into that. So if Charlie doesn't, then it's like, okay, well, you can't manufacture a new defense. No, I don't see any defense attorney saying, well, can you come up with a better story than that, Charlie? Because that one was ridiculous. No, the evidence is too overwhelming, and he definitely will be convicted. Thanks, Kathy. That's nice of you. what? Owasso Egan saying, too bad they can't try Donna and Charlie together, but it would be conflicted though, right? Well, that's something that you can try co-defendants at trial. Sometimes they're separated, but I'd leave that to the judge. Try to get them both to be tried together along with Wendy and Harvey. Why not? Why not at least try it? JJ, you're saying, folks, he never predicted this for Charlie's trial, Mr. Monday morning quarterback. If you're talking about me, I would say that I don't share everything that's helpful to the defense. You know that, and so this was a concern I had all along in this case, and Rashbaum being conflicted. So no, I'm not going to publicly admit that there's some reservations about it. I had more reservations than what I even said about Donna having Rashbaum on the case, but I constantly made reference to that. And so anyway, I don't know if you're trying to say I didn't adequately predict this, but if you look at my other predictions, I think you'll see that um, I've been pretty consistent. C Star, you're asking, will he need a public defender? No, he's not going to be able to get a public defender because I don't think he's at the point he's indigent yet. Public defenders are only represent those people who are so poor they can't afford to hire an attorney on their own. So I don't think that's the case at all. Yeah, I'm sure Donna's happy that Charlie is getting a new trial, but now they both got to start all over from scratch. So Charlie and everything he went through, it's all for naught. That Rashbaum is in his representation is gonna call this thing to be reversed. So Letterman's Bureau, you're asking, could Rashbaum be responsible for paying for another retrial? Why should the taxpayers be on the hook again? Yeah, they don't do that to lawyers in the United States. So if he's ineffective, then that's states is going to have to retry it again. All witnesses are going to have to go through that same hardship. So Margaret, you're asking, how does this affect Donna Jenna Rashbaum's co-counsel? I don't know what you mean by that. There are no co-counsel now in this case for Donna. She doesn't have any counsel, period. So the judge removed all co-counsel that Rashbaum had. So Jane Kreisman, yeah, I think plea deal is remotely possible, but you got to get the right kind of attorney in there that can talk some sense into Charlie. But who knows? Who knows if Charlie's going to wise up and decide to do the right thing? JC, you're saying he's had a bad taste of prison life, so he might just cave. Yeah, I mean, that could be a good impetus as well. I think the fact that he's so disgusted with Wendy, and I think he really blames Wendy for his conviction more than anything. There could be maybe 50-50 chance he flips on Wendy. And think about it now. He's starting from scratch. There's no conviction, murder conviction over his head, where he's not going to get that much shaved off if he agrees to flip on Wendy. I would think he's going to just beg at the chance to testify against her in exchange for maybe getting, 25 to 30 years, maybe 40 or something, rather than life without parole. Yes, I'm so tired. Yeah, they will definitely be staying in jail during this whole time. Charlie will be released from prison and come back to Leon County Jail. I was laughing about this comment here about June. Carol Mitchell, you're asking, is now the time to assemble all Adelsons and put them on trial together? Yeah, that's what I think would be a smart move for the Florida Adelsons. I agree. All right, jumping ahead here. Okay, first of all, Cindy Petrosky, you're saying, why didn't any YouTube lawyer catch the conflict and put a spotlight on it? Okay, well, first of all, we did not know that Rashbaum was really represented by, at least didn't have that foresight and recollection that Rashbaum was representing Don and Harvey way back when. And so, as you're talking about the conflict with Charlie, there was no, we didn't know for sure that any Adelson would be prosecuted ever again. So, if the state attorney's office knew that they were going to prosecute Donna right after Charlie, they would have been in the best driver's seat to say, hey, look, Rashbaum, you represented Donna and Harvey, and now you're trying to represent Charlie. You're going to have a conflict there. So they're the ones that should have raised that from the get go. If Rashbaum wasn't going to raise it, and then the judge should have said, "You're right. This is a totally problematic thing, Rashbaum. You're so wrapped around the axle of three different Adelsons, and if the state intends to charge other Adelsons, that's going to be the reason that you're bounced off this case because your main loyalty looks like is to Donna." But because we didn't know that at the time, now here you got after, as soon as it became a real issue was when he represented. I'm talking about Rashbaum. When Rashbaum comes in and represents Donna, when that happens, then you have the direct conflict between Donna representation and the Charlie representation. So that's when it really became a front and center thing, because without Donna ever being arrested, it would have never been an issue, right? So it potentially had an issue, and if it's potentially an issue, it's not that big a deal. But sorry, I'm just not going to say something about Charlie also having an appellate issue that can be reversible. But once we saw Donna's getting unraveled, the same kind of thing could apply. So anyway, as I've said from almost 11 months now, Rashbaum should not have been representing Donna. Took that long to get him bounced. So, and now he's bounced. He's going to be bounced off of Charlie's as well. So, Mandy Strong, I don't think it's an intentional conflict. I think it's something that just people drop the ball on, especially Rashbaum should have known better. But there's plenty of adults in the room for the blame to go around. No, trial will be tedious. Yeah, but you know what? I mean, there's I'm hearing reports that a lot of people say, you know what, this go at one at a time against an Adelson is working, and it's worked successfully. So I heard that from a lawyer on YouTube a couple days ago. Somebody pointed that out to me, and guess what? Now they're going to start from scratch, day one, ground zero again, and none of the Adelsons are convicted. So it's a conflict issue. Like I said, wouldn't happen if they would have arrested multiple Adelsons at the same time. I'm so tired. He can't change his story without perjuring himself. That's correct. He's not going to come up with any kind of different stories. He pretty much locked himself in. Snow remover. Normally, you have a response from the state and before the court makes a determination. So you have appellate lawyers representing the state of Florida on this matter. So they'll give a response initially, and I expect I would think that they would agree to have it returned to the trial court and have that address the conflict. But it remains to be seen. Yeah, Johnny Walker. I am saying he's locked into his extortion, which it doesn't meet the definition of extortion. So I call it a robbery on a payment plan. No, I have not shown you the appellate document that Ufferman filed, and not sure if I know how to do that on YouTube, but it should be published on the court system by tomorrow. If for some reason it wasn't tonight, I had to get a bootleg copy from Steve Cohen, as I said earlier. Cupcake, I think it will be overturned. I don't think it's a high possibility. I think it's pretty much a done deal in my book. I think that if the judges understand constitutional requirements, I think it's a done deal. I can't say that for sure. Obviously, I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge on the judges' predispositions to rule on anything like this. I don't know who they are, and I'm just telling you from my experience working with thousands of criminal cases over 30 some years that that I think he will get a new trial. So Feisty, go ahead and say that. I'm not happy that that's the case, but there is such a thing as a constitutional standard. We can't have people convicted with lawyers that are conflicted to such a degree that people are denied the right to a fair trial. So it's really a legal issue, and it's not so much a personal issue. But obviously, the personal consequences and the emotional consequences are severe and drastic for the victims of this, the Markel family. Mary Patterson, you're asking, do I think because Charlie Adelson has money, he'll be more strategic going forward legally? Well, it depends how good of a lawyer you get and what kind of money you can buy with the lawyers down there in Florida, and how much you're willing to have somebody tell them the truth. Keep in mind, as I've said, if you got a lot of money at your disposal, lawyers want to go to trial, and they're not as inclined to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you, "Hey, fight this, we can win." Because if and they're going to demand, let's say, $1 million off a wealthy defendant. If they say, "Hey, give me $1 million and I'll work a deal for you," they're going to go, "What? $1 million to cut a deal? I'm looking for a new lawyer down the street." So you'd lose out on a lot of money. So wealthy people, they're going to want to have lawyers that tell them what they want to hear. For the most part, is the way I look at it. And in the end, they wind up getting the worst representation. And this is an example of it. John, you're saying with the video on SCS we use against Rashbaum, as he lied publicly. We don't know for sure that he lied. That's a pretty bold statement. He did say he had a signed waiver, and if he got botched the signing of it, even the motion today said there was not a valid waiver because it was never signed. It was discussed with Charlie. Apparently, verbally gave consent, but Rashbaum never had the written waiver. But in the end, it doesn't matter because even a written waiver would not. You can't waive a constitutionally ineffective counsel. So with that being said, that's not going to resolve the matter. Okay, let's see. Yeah, in his will, Dan's poor parents, they must be so disheartened. Yeah, it's a real tragedy. It's a real tragedy. And but anyway, I could start going off on a rant, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's see. Now they're both going to stay in prison. No one's going to get out. So in any event, there's no way they're getting out. All right. So okay, here, Janie Garnett here saying, can the Markel sue Donna Adelson and others for not doing their job properly and therefore allowing their son's killers to walk free? No, they have qualified immunity. They have to do something really extreme and outrageous and outside the scope of their professional official duties before you can sue a state official. So that's never going to happen. Yeah, a lot of questions about Rashbaum losing his bar card. I don't think that's going to happen. But could it happen in other states? Yeah, I just don't know about Florida. I'm not going to speculate on that. Fletcher Boy, could Charlie and Donna waive the attorney-client privilege to expose potential wrongdoing by Rashbaum? Well, if Rashbaum's brought in a lawsuit or He's facing ethical charges. I don't think they're going to bring in Donna and Charlie because they're going to be locked up, so they're not going to be witnesses that way. And I would say that you don't need that waiver to properly do the ethics call and decision on what should happen to his license. So I just don't see that. The Adelsons really aren't the ones that are going to be driving the train on this. The state bar judicial committee will be the ones the ethics committee will be the ones that are going to be looking at this, determining what to do. And what they do is in all states, they provide notice. There's a complaint, and the attorney has to respond. And if it's if it's still something that looks like it needs to be addressed through a formal hearing, then they'll put the attorney on notice, and they have like a mini trial to determine what was done wrong and if anything was done wrong. And if there is a finding of an ethical violation, then they'll have a recommended sanctions, and then that will get teed up to the Supreme Court to make a final chop on it. Lindemont, you're asking where the feds. This is embarrassing for the poor Markells. Yeah, they did have all this FBI involvement with Special Agent Sanford down there, but I guess the federal prosecutors down there, the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is actually sitting right there in Tallahassee, so that's right under their nose as well. So it's just mind-boggling how this case has been languishing and not proper attention given. Manny Strong, you're saying, can Charlie change his defense now? What if Rashbaum recommended that wackadoodle story to save his dear Donna? As an attorney, you're not supposed to manufacture a defense for the client to come up with. I think attorneys do that, but if they do that, that's really something that is highly unethical, and you could lose your license for that. So I would say that's not something that I'm going to speculate and say Rashbaum would do that. I think Charlie's the one that's the wise guy and thought he had this things worked out so good. So don't see this as a something that Rashbaum came up with. I would think as an attorney, for sure this thing is so ridiculous, so that there's no way you can win the case. So I don't know why. I guess Rashbaum doesn't have the experience level on violent crime cases to if he really was telling Charlie that he won the case because he scored a 95 on his testimony. No, Charlie's not getting out of jail. If he gets a retrial, he's just going to come back to state court, Leon County Jail. It's going to start all over again. Yeah, the double extortion defense absolutely won't work right now. Well, it never worked before, so it's the worst defense you could ever come up with in any kind of felony case. And we even got more evidence now. The conversation between Donna and Charlie, where they were basically saying that Sigfredo Garcia, when he got arrested, that he was probably dealing drugs with Deanna Rashbaum. That's why he got murdered. So why would they have that internal private conversation if there really was this robbery on a payment plan as being what was the real story? Cupcake, no, Charlie's conviction wasn't overturned. I'm just predicting that's going to be the case, probably within the next 30 days or so. I just don't see this as being something that's going to survive appellate scrutiny, and I think Judge Everett's going to make a similar decision to what he did on Donna's case. Rashbaum was up to his eyeballs swimming and drowning in this conflict, so. No, public adjuster Charlie's not going to be able to post bail. He's going to stay in there just like Donna till his trial. Okay, let's see. Don, you're asking, can this affect Katie in any way positively, Carl? Well, Katie's testimony that helped convict Charlie all that was for naught. And so I think maybe what will happen is that if Charlie does decide to go all the way to another trial, that maybe Katie's going to be more emboldened to tell the truth and give more details than she gave earlier. So it remains to be seen. All right, let's see here. Jill Argos, you're saying none of this is George's fault. Well, go look at some of my past recent videos in the last month. I explain that. Yes, Lana, they can offer Charlie a plea deal for the second trial, maybe flip on Wendy for a deal. Yeah, that could happen. It might be something as good as a 50-50 chance. Who knows? You're talking about personal decisions, and to have Charlie admit to murdering his nephew's father, that could be a really hard thing to do. But if he wants to see his own son and never have a chance of doing that, then that'd be a no-brainer. Flip on Wendy, flip on whoever you need to, including Donna and Harvey. If he flipped on all three, he'd be getting out the soonest with that. Sharon Shipley is asking, do I think that there are still political strings being pulled behind the scenes? I think that Adelson connections in Florida have dried up. I think people look at them as toxic now, and they don't want to be associated with them in any way, shape, or form. So I don't think that's still existing now. I think it's just a matter of other things I've talked about on this channel in the last year plus. CC, you're asking, will Dan be called to testify? Knowing about Donna was leaving, et cetera. No, you're not going to have an attorney be called for something like that because that'd be attorney-client privilege. If the client turns around and tells other people, that would not subject the attorney to be called in for that. But maybe his conversation and telling her she should not flee, maybe that could be something that, as Stephen Webster said, could be something else that they add as a ethical allegation against Rashbaum. It remains to be seen. Yep, JC, get the Adelsons locked up. I agree. Cease Stravitus, you're saying, shouldn't Judge Everett be recused as well? With Judge Everett, just because he made a bad ruling does not mean that he's or delayed a proper ruling is more likely, and didn't screen and bounce Rashbaum from the court almost 11 months ago. He's not going to be recused because that's not a personal conflict. Judges don't have conflicts like that with defendants. But if he did have some kind of personal history with one of the parties, and that is what happens when judges need to recuse themselves. JD, you must have not seen my other channels. The last three segments I had, I've covered this very heavily about the prosecution's involvement. So I'm not going to cover that again tonight. I get too ticked off. Okay, Maya again is saying, I've seen a one-by-one prosecution of co-conspirators who murdered a young kid. They still arrested all in the same time, even the shot caller. Yeah, so the thing is, you arrest them all around the same time or at the same time, and even if you give them separate trials, at least that's forcing them to do a circular firing squad. So if you just do one at a time and let's see how that trial comes out, then maybe then we'll have enough courage to go after the next co-defendant. No, you got to get them all nailed down at one time. Yeah, JC, you're right about that. A lot of us question the representation of both Adelsons seeing the conflict. I couldn't believe Rashbaum allowed to do this, but anyway, that's something we'll never understand how this got so far down the tracks. No, Charlie's not going to get out on any kind of bond. Marta Fonda, he's going to be stay locked. He's going to be locked up there in Tallahassee, Leon County Jail. Yeah, Mandy, if Rashbaum wrote the script for Charlie, that would be like he would be disbarred probably for that. If you basically coach your client how to lie and you got it in writing, I don't see that happening. Ethically, from like I'll just say like for Texas, if I have a client that I don't believe and he's not telling me the straight truth on what really happened and to get him charged, then if the client still insists on going to trial, then I can think that they're lying, but unless they admit to me that they're lying, I got to let them get on the stand and go ahead and say their story, and that's what I'm supposed to do. But if they tell me, "Hey, I'm going to get up there and lie, Carl," what kind of questions do I ask? And these are the ones, or they tell me what questions I ask to help establish a defense that's a lie or a major falsehood. I'm not going to be involved in that. That would be unethical for me to take part in that. Carol Mitchell, you're saying, if not now, the time to arrest all Adelsons, when is? Does Everett have any say in this ongoing nonsense? No, the judge is neutral. Judges do not weigh in on when folks should be arrested. If they're presented a warrant and stuff like that, then the judge have a neutral, detached responsibility to evaluate the evidence presented and go ahead and make that call. But no, definitely not Judge Everett's responsibility. I think it was up to Judge Everett. Yeah, he'd make more arrests for sure. But that's not his role. Again, from C. Stravitis, you're saying who will be representing Donna 12 December hearing. We don't know who's going to represent her. I think it's actually the 10th of December, 12/10, if I recall correctly. Anyway, it's around that time frame, so I think that it remains to be seen. But that's a lot of time to be sitting there trying to find a lawyer. Yeah, we don't know how much Astra Moon is actually. How much did Donna pay Alex? We do not know. That's a number we're not going to know off of any information that's been made public. But my guess he's probably made 400,000 at least on this, maybe 400 to 600,000. Yes, that's a good question, Carla. The new evidence discovered by the state after they arrested Donna can be used against Charlie in the new trial as well. So in that sense, some of the evidence is stronger, but yeah, it's definitely something that's it's going to be that much easier to get a conviction, assuming you got a lot of the same witnesses available. Yeah, John said it right there. It's just really unreal. You can't find another true crime case like this. This one is it's got some legs of its own, and it just keeps going on. Yeah, again, you're asking about Jack Campbell. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I've already talked about that. All right, jumping ahead here. Let's see. Mo Roma, you're asking, if Judge Everett make this right by overturning it, or does it have to go through the appellate court? I would say that this has to go through Judge Everett. If it's granted, if it's agreed by the appellate court, the First District Court of Appeals there in Florida, if they agree to have this case sent back to the trial level Judge Everett, then that's something then that gives the judge at the trial level the opportunity to address this issue and do some fact finding. But so I think the trial courts will grant this request. I don't see any problem doing that. It's just going to help this issue get resolved quicker and help Charlie get a second trial much faster than like I say if it worked its way through the appellate court system. Kurt, absolutely, Wendy could be arrested in spite of these developments, and could and should and hopefully will be. Sally A, can you please clarify that Judge Everett was the third lawyer on this trial? There were two other judges before Everett. Yes, Judge Everett, we had Judge Hankinson, that was a judge initially, and then we had Judge Wheeler. So the the issue with Charlie having conflicted counsel, he was the first Adelson to be arrested. So Judge Everett was the first one that um, could have, if he knew about the fact that Rashbaum was representing Donna previously. But like I say, nobody was in the driver's seat except the state attorney's office to really know if they were going to charge Donna down the road. They should have made that determination, know that they're just waiting to build a case against her. But they kept us in the dark about that. But they were really the ones that said, "Wait a minute, Rashbaum was right. We know Rashbaum was representing Donna previously, so why is he now representing Charlie?" And that should be a conflict. But they never saw it even after he came back to Donna again, representing multiple Adelsons at an actual murder trial. Did not even face the state attorney's office or the judge. So anyway, it's we know where it's at now and what that led to. Yeah, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? So imagine that you have no Adelsons arrested if this gets bounced. No Adelsons, I should say, convicted after over 10 years. That's so shocking. Yeah, McGrady, I've already talked about that. So you guys are, I'm not going to rehash that. I'll just go, you can look at some of my past videos in the last month about that. Okay, I'm going to go for a few more questions here. Let's see. All right, Rosemary, you're asking, would this have ever happened if the prosecution never put Charlie Adelson on the witness stand? No, it would have never been salvaged because this issue was still such a major thing hanging out there. So I would say that that just brought the issue sooner than later, because what otherwise would have happened is it would have been a year and a half down the road before the appellate court would have made a ruling reversing this case um, for the conflict that Rashbaum had. So this is speeding it up. So them having on the witness stand, I think, is a good thing to make them start over for having this thing so botched up. Okay, here, let's see. CC's asking, Dan belongs to a law firm. Will they be involved in any of this? Well, in terms of like the ethical complaints that Rashbaum's having to respond to, that's him and him alone. The firm does not drug into that. If there's a lawsuit against Rashbaum, then of course the entire firm would be on us if there's a civil suit. Patricia Winders is asking, do I think this has been planned all along? The Adelsons know him well. He knows the law. Well, you're saying that's debatable. I think this has been planned all along. I don't, I can understand why folks can think that, but I just don't think lawyers are really that calculating in how to be able to get a client off, even if it's a client they really love and think of supposedly as a mother. But I don't think for a second that he thought of her as a mother. I think he's just doing his advocacy for Donna. And so no, I don't think they understood this conflict was going to come back and get them in trouble with the bar at all. Mm-mm. Yeah, Tracy, that's what I'm saying. I expect Charlie's case to be overturned, and I think he'll be retried, and unless he is going to cut a deal with the state. Rebecca Ross is asking, is discussing a client's case in public a bar violation? We have both express and implied authority as attorneys to talk about our client's situation if we think it's benefiting the client. We're not allowed to talk publicly to the detriment of our client's interest. We're always supposed to act in their best interest, even if the attorney-client actual representation is ceased. So, for example, if Donna was represented by Rashbaum, and then he's actually stopped representing her to go take care of Charlie. During the time of representation with Charlie, he still has a zealous ethical duty to preserve the best interest of Donna at the same time. So that's where you have this thing about like whose best interest is he really looking out for, Charlie's or Donna's? And therefore, by him not wanting to call Donna at the trial to support to have a corroborating witness for Charlie's, and it's just sort of one of those deals where it just looks so bad that he's conflicted and is conflicted. It's not just an actual, it is perceived it is an actual, I should say. Johnny Walker is asking about what I think that Charlie complained about a fair trial in Leon, and considering the publicity and Rashbaum drawn, were there grounds for a change of venue? I don't think there will ever be a change of venue for any of these Adelsons. There's not enough Tallahassee folks that know about this. Yeah, Lisa Burton, we don't know who the lawyer is yet. I think she's still shopping around. It may take her another month before they find somebody. Veronica, you're saying they should hurry up and arrest Wendy. I feel like once her boys are 18, she's going to try to flee. Yeah, I just don't get this. It's so bizarre. Rosemary, you're asking how long is the appeal process and if Charlie Adelson gets a new trial. That's what I'm saying. I'm predicting he's going to get a new trial. I think it could happen really fast, like within 30 days or so. If the state appellate court grants the referral of this case back to the trial court, I think this thing will happen within weeks and not much more than a month, I would say at the longest. Yeah, Fletcher boy, I've been saying this that if Donna passed away before trial and Charlie gets a new trial, would Charlie be more inclined to testify against Wendy? For sure. If Wendy dies, Donna dies, and Charlie's facing his new trial, I think that would be a great impetus for him to decide. You know what? I got to go for broke. I'm gonna bring Wendy down with me, and at least I have a potential shot of getting out before I die and seeing my son. Yeah, Rebecca, you're right. Men and women don't mingle in Leon County Jail, so Charlie's not going to get to see Don, and vice versa. Yeah, Claudia Gutierrez, you're saying what a train wreck. I pray they do not throw his conviction out. I'm just telling you from a constitutional standpoint. I'm big on the Constitution. It doesn't matter how bad and heinous the crime is. If there's dirty dealings, if there's corrupt dealings, if there's unethical dealings and blatant constitutional violations, really for the betterment of American justice system, we got to make things right. We can't let those things slide and say, well, it's just he's such a bad criminal, he's such a heinous murderer, we got to let things slide. No, we got to retry it and do it right. Is the way I feel strongly. And so, as much as it's rehashing everything for the victims, it's so frustrating and outrageous. That's really the big justice in that we have our Constitution to rely upon. It looks like I'm about to sign off here. My battery's about to go down. So yeah, Mandy, they're gonna be able to find jurors. Not too many people have seen this. Tracy, yeah, I don't know about us writing a book. I'll talk to John about that. Just to wrap it up, today we had a motion filed by the attorney for Charlie Adelson. They're trying to have this case remanded to the trial court level to have the trial court determine if Rashbaum was conflicted in Charlie's case, just like with Donna's case. And if that is the case, right, that he was conflicted from the fair and ethical and effective representation of Charlie, then basically Charlie's going to get a new trial. So that's what my prediction is. Charlie's going to get a new trial. Judge Everett's going to be the one to order it. And it may even be stipulated, too, that there was a conflict by the state attorneys representing this. So in any event, that's all I have for tonight, folks. So thanks for following this. I'll be back on again soon with, I'm going to cover some more of this Sarah Boone case. So not sure. I guess we're going to have some opening statements tomorrow. So I'll probably be back on tomorrow night talking about the opening statements for the parties. So with that being said, more to follow us on this Adelson case. So it gets stranger and stranger, doesn't it? So with that, thanks for supporting the Markells, and have a good night.